Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yom Vishnupada Paramahamsa Privrajacharya Stotra Sata Sri Srimad Bhagavatam Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Iskcon founder Acharya, BBT founder Acharya, Jagat Guru, Savior of the whole world, Patit Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramai ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Harinam Sankirtan Mahayagna ki, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 7, Text number 8. Evam Varshayuta Sahasra Paryata Vasita Karma Nirvana Vasarodhi Pujyamanam Swatane Thanayebhyo Riktam Pitru Paitamaham Yatadayam Vibhajya Swayam Sakala Sampanniketat Swaniketat Pulaha Shramam Pravavraja Evam Varshayuta Sahasra Paryanta Vasito Evam Varshayuta Sahasra Paryanta Vasita Obhi Bhujyamanam Swatanayebhyo Riktam Pitru Paitamaham Yathadayam Riktam Pitru Paitamaham Yatadayam Vibhajya Swayam Sakala Sampanniketat Vibhajya Swayam Sakala Sampanniketat Swaniketat Pulahashramam Pravavraja Swaniketat Pulahashramam Pravavraja. Quite a tongue twister, huh? Okay, we'll chant once more and then move on. Evam Varshayuta Sahasra Paryanta Vasita Karma Nirvana Vasarobi Bhujyamanam Swatanayebhyo Riktam Pitru Paitamaham Yathadayam Vaibhajya Swayam Sakala Sampanniketat Swaniketat Pulahashramam Pravavraja. Evam, thus being always engaged. Varsha Ayuta Sahasra, 1,000 times 10,000 years. Pariyanta, until then, Avasita Karma Nirvana Avasaraha, Maharaj Bharata, who ascertained the moment of the end of his royal opulence, Adibujyamanam, being enjoyed in this way for that duration, Swatanayebhyaha, onto his own sons, Riktham, the wealth, Pitrupaitamaham, which he received from his father and forefathers, Yatadhayam, according to the Daya Bhak laws of Manu, Vibhajya, dividing, Swayam, personally, Sakala Sampat, of all kinds of opulence, Niketat, the abode, Swaniketat, from his paternal home, Pulaha Ashramam, Pravavraja, he went to the ashram of Pulaha in Haridwar, where the Salagram Shilas are obtainable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharata's enjoyment of the material opulence at 1000 times 10,000 years. When that period was finished, he retired from family life and divided the wealth he had received from his forefathers among his sons. He left his paternal home, the reservoir of all opulence, and started for Pulaha Ashrama, which is situated in Haridwar. The Salagram Shilas are obtainable there. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki. Purport. According to the law of Daya Bhak, when one inherits an estate, he must hand it over to the next generation. Bharata Maharaja did this properly. First, he enjoyed his paternal property for 1000 times 10,000 years. At the time of his retirement, he divided this property among his sons and left for Pulaha Ashrama. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Rupa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharata's. Wait. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharata's enjoyment of material opulence at 1000 times 10,000 years. When that period was finished, he retired from family life and divided the wealth he had received from his forefathers among his sons. He left his paternal home, the reservoir of all opulence, and started for Pulahashrama, which is situated in Hardwar. The Salagram Shilas are obtainable there. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Thank you very much for joining us for the Monday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. In the previous verse it is written, in this way, being purified by the ritualistic sacrifices, the heart of Maharaj Bharata was completely uncontaminated. His devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day after day. Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the original personality of Godhead, manifest as the super soul Paramatma as well as the impersonal Brahman. Yogis meditate upon the localized Paramatma situated in the heart, and Jnanis worship the impersonal Brahman as the supreme absolute truth, and devotees worship Vasudeva, the supreme personality of Godhead, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with Shivatsa, etc., etc. Devotees like Naradam always think of him within their hearts. And in the previous verse it is mentioned that after performing the preliminaries of various sacrifices, Maharaj Bharata offered the results in the name of religion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. In other words, he performed all the yajnas for the satisfaction of Vasudeva Krishna. Maharaj Bharata thought that since the demigods were different parts of the Vasudeva's body, he controls those who are explained in the Vedic mantras. By thinking is this way, Maharaj Bharata was freed from all material contamination such as attachment, lust and greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients into the fire, Maharaj Bharata expertly understood how the offering made to different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord, and so on. So, with great faith, King Bharata performed the various kinds of sacrifices. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, etc., etc. In this way, Bharata Maharaja worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, 1000 times 10,000 years. It's not that these 1000 times 10,000 years, Bharata Maharaja was a sense gratifying kind of a person. It's so specifically being pointed out that Bharata Maharaja during that period also was engaged constantly in the service of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna. And it is interesting to see that the devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day after day. In this way, being purified by ritualistic sacrifices, the heart of Maharaj Bharata was completely uncontaminated. Devotees like Narada always think of him within their heart. So, Bharata Maharaja was in other words an exemplary king. During the time he was a king also, he dedicated his entire duration to offering sacrifices to the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. And his heart was uncontaminated by the opulence. Here it is said that his paternal home was a reservoir of all opulences. So come time, when the time comes, after 1000 times 10,000 years, Bharata Maharaja practically had no difficulty in giving up his kingship, and he walked away after handing over this reservoir of opulence to his sons. And then it is said that Daya Bhag, Prabhupada specifically comments about the Daya Bhag principle. He inherits his estate, he must hand it over to the next generation. So it's not that people wait till they die and then they all fight how to divide the property, which is typically what we see here in Kali Yuga. But they voluntarily, very responsibly, very mindfully distribute their property to their sons and retire gracefully. So Bharat Maharaja was one such emperor who retired. And Prabhupada mentions that it is after his time that this planet came to be, or this continent came to be known as Bharatavarsha. Not to be mistaken for Bharata from Lord Ramachandra's Leela. The name comes from Bharata, the king here, referred to here. So, devotees have this strong inclination to offer everything to Krishna and Krishna's service. Devotees actually are frustrated when they are not able to do that, give their time, energy, their life, everything completely in the service of Guru and Krishna. And they do not like any other situation. And whatever comes into the custody of devotees, the devotees become anxious to use it in the service of Krishna. So that is the meaning of saying when somebody is uncontaminated. They understand that they're trustees. They're not only not the owners of anything. They're trustees. Trustee means in the legal parlance, trustee, the word trustee means you're not the owner, but you can decide how to use it. It's not yours, you don't own it, but nevertheless, you can decide how to use it. Trustee is normally accompanied by a caveat, which means when a trust is formed, it is decided for what purpose this trust is formed. And you're limited by that, and you use that property. Say, for example, you get a property, you're a trustee, and this trust is dedicated to providing medical care for children or something like that. So you're bound to do that. Whatever proceeds of the trust you have to dedicate. So similarly, a devotee understands that he's a trustee, and then the real owner is Krishna. He is just a custodian, a trustee for a certain period of time. And then it returns back to Krishna at the end of his time, or some arrangement has to be made to hand it over to his children or something. But he's not the owner, he's definitely not the absolute owner. The devotees are very conscious of that. Not to speak of devotees, even a responsible citizen will be conscious that when some trusts are formed, etc. They're very careful, they're mindful, they're thoughtful about how they use it. So here we see Bharata very lovingly, very anxiously, very eagerly offering all that he had. While he was a king, performing sacrifices and different types of sacrifices, though some of which appeared to be directed towards appeasing the devatas and demigods, but Bharata Maharaj knew that devatas are also nothing but the limbs of the Supreme Lord. So everything was harmoniously being offered, even though it may appear like it's being offered to the devatas. It was actually meant for Krishna, the Supreme Lord, because he considered devatas as the limbs of the Supreme Lord. So devotees are such kind of people from whom nobody can feel any threat. One does not feel any threat from a devotee. One does not feel any deceit or threat or cunningness or shrewdness from a devotee. Devotee is very straightforward, uncontaminated. He's very happy to be. I can't say he's always very happy. He carries on the responsibility of being a custodian of wealth or the kingdom, or as long as the Lord wants, in a very careful, responsible way. So devotee is not hankering for such a position or stature or power or authority. Rather, the devotee looks at that as a burden at times. Oh, I have to take care of all this. It was better. I was better off when I didn't have this much responsibility. I was much better off. Life was much more simpler when I didn't have to carry out these responsibilities. So devotee is always thinking, how soon can I get rid of these kind of responsibilities so that I can do my bhajana, my my chanting or reading or like that, and carry on. So you see that in the Varnashrama system, typically the Brahmanas are very renounced, very uncontaminated, very selfless, very charitable, and don't want to get entangled in the business of running a kingdom or managing wealth or something. Though they are so powerful by the virtue of their purity and sacrifice to command as much power or authority or opulence or wealth, they choose not to, because they look at it as, let the Kshatriyas take care. At best, maybe we'll advise them, but no, we don't want to do that. So, which is why when Dasharatha Maharaj performed that sacrifice for begetting children, and then he offers huge, inconceivable amounts of charity gifts to all the Brahmanas who perform that sacrifice, they dutifully return it to him and they say, we don't want this. What will we do with this? Very happy, living peacefully. Our whole life will be disturbed and changed if we have to take care of this opulence that you're giving. We give it back to you. We see that you're doing a remarkably good job of running this kingdom, taking care of the people. You take care of them like your children, and they look at you as their father. This is the ideal setup. So you better keep it. We don't want any of this. So, though Dasharatha was very eager and anxious to bestow opulences, so much so that he divided his kingdom also and gave it away and said, I'm so happy that I'm going to have a son that you take all of it. But every one of them returns it and says, it's your duty. You're the Kshatriya. You better do it. We are Brahmanas. It's not our business to run the kingdom or manage wealth or something. Our business is to be dedicated to the service of the Lord, upholding dharma, teaching, preaching, study, and that's how it should be. We don't want to get into each other's shoes. I don't want to become a Kshatriya like that. But the king, they're a little bit, the kings of Kshatriya class are a little bit in the Rajaguna, so they like this concept of power, authority, and opulence and so on. But of course, in the previous yugas, they were also responsible. They would follow the guidance of Brahmanas, great sages, just as Dasharatha had Vashishta as his guru. So there's some kind of a check and balance system built into the whole system. So Dasharatha would always be counseled by Vashishta and protected by Vashishta, guided by Vashishta. Actually, we could say Vashishta was very anxious to protect him, so he doesn't do anything adharmic, doesn't do anything wrong, doesn't harm the citizens of his province, and does everything which is ultimately very pleasing to Dharma, Krishna, God, etc. So Vashishta was more a protector and caretaker. And given that sometimes the kings, because of their entanglement, may do some mistakes or there may be some lapses, Vashishta was always there to correct the situation. But Vashishta would never become the king, nor was that his aspiration. So similarly, we see that sometimes there are great souls who have this kind of values who become kings, like Bharata. Though he was very much, you could say, he was like a Paramahamsa, but he ends up becoming the king. So Bharata is waiting, when can he get liberated, when he can give up everything and go away. Just as Rishabhadeva was also anxious to get out of his. They look at this as a as a well. They look at this kingship more as a distraction, burdensome distraction, and they want to be free. And the moment they see somebody responsible who can take over, they hand over. We can see that Maharaj Yudhishthira also walked away from being a king after he discovered, or after he came to know that Krishna had left this world. And Maharaj Yudhishthira walks away incognito. Incognito means nobody can even recognize him. He walked away, and his 4 brothers followed him, and of course his wife Draupadi also followed him. He walked away in the northern direction towards the Himalayas. So devotees of the Lord are just kind of waiting to renounce, give up everything, and work for their Guru and Krishna, work for a divine purpose. And they feel that any other life is a life of adjustment and compromise. So they're blessed, we could say they're blessed souls. And Bhagavatam talks about them, glorifies them. And here we see the classic example of Bharata. Though he had ruled for 1,000 times 10,000 years, even during that period you could see that his values were so evident, because he was always performing some yagyas or homas, or just making sure he was uncontaminated. Though he was a Kshatriya, like I said, several times Duryodhana was told by his own father. Dhritarashtra also would tell him, you will have no harm if you accept Yudhishthira as your friend. You should accept Yudhishthira as your friend, as your brother, as a well-wisher, as your guide, rather than fight with him. Because Yudhishthira would never, even in his dream, would want to harm you or snatch something from you. Why don't you work together like that? So devotee is one from whom nobody feels any threat. Devotee understands destiny. Devotee understands, like it says, destiny fixed the time for Bharat Maharaj's enjoyment. Devotee understands the arrangement of the Lord, and he more than happily cooperates with the arrangement of the Lord. And in material matters, it's okay like that. The devotee understands. But of course, sometimes the devotee also fights back, like the Pandavas fought back, because they were goaded by Krishna personally. That when all options fail, we have to fight. So at the direct order, instructions of Krishna, the devotee, the Pandavas fought back. So Bhagavad Gita is a classic example. When Arjuna didn't want to fight, Krishna convinced him. So from a dharmic perspective, from establishing dharma, from the need to punish the miscreants, etc., and in order to protect the future progeny and society, Krishna convinced him, saying that this is one battle that you should not walk away from. You should fight, and fight to achieve victory. So you could say that directly being engaged by Krishna in warfare. Otherwise, devotees are very... so when they catch hold of Jayadratha and bring him, eventually Yudhishthira forgives him, and he says that it's very painful to see you, you're my relative, to see you in this pathetic state. So you're forgiven, you go. So devotees have a very, very soft touch. When Ashwatthama was caught and brought in front of Draupadi, though Krishna had said that for the crime that Ashwatthama has done, he deserves to be killed, but Draupadi forgives him. Draupadi forgives him and says, let him go. He is after all the son of my Guru, and I don't want my Guru's wife to lament for her lost son like I am lamenting for my lost children. So let him go. And Krishna smiles approvingly. So it's very interesting to see how devotees conduct themselves at various times, and how they actually, for them, nothing is more important than freeing themselves from all contamination, from all burdens of society, varnashrama, freeing themselves and enter into a platform of being exclusively devoted to the service of Guru and Krishna. Exclusively, completely devoted. They're just waiting there. They're actually many times actively maneuvering to get there so that they can be exclusively ahaituki apratihata. So they become exclusively devoted to the service of their mission of their Guru or Krishna. And they're actively trying to achieve that. Many times they have to be restrained and said, no, time has not come for you to renounce. You please wait some more time until you find a successor or something. We can also see this in the pastime of Raghunath Das Goswami. He was a son of a very rich family. And it is said that his wife was so beautiful that she could compete with the Apsaras in terms of beauty. But he was so frustrated. He was saying that this is a prison house. In spite of being wealthy and have a nice family and big reputation and so on, he was looking at this as Gruhamanda Kupam, some kind of a prison. I'm thrown into a hopeless prison. And I'm desperate to try and escape. And then he tries several times, and ultimately, of course, he escapes only after he gets the blessings of Nityananda and all the Vaishnavas. And it is said that that mercy of Nityananda and the Vaishnavas is what actually qualified him to renounce. But otherwise, he was trying many times. And every time he would try, he would get caught and he would get caught and he would be brought back. And they had kept guards to see that he wouldn't go away, run away. So we should not think that the devotees are renouncing this material world or something like that. Actually, bhakti, after a particular point of maturity, it becomes so sweet, so relishable, so absorbing. Whether it's chanting or being with the devotees or serving or planning for Krishna, doing for Krishna, whatever different services we do, become so absorbing, so satisfying, so rewarding to the mind, consciousness, intellect, that devotee is hankering for that kind of pure existence. And he looks at the things of this material world as being a superfluous, unnecessary burden. He's like, he's wondering how people are carrying on with their life in a very compromised state, very pathetic state, but giving up bhakti and giving up Krishna's association, Krishna's service. Devotees are thinking like that. Somehow they are surprised that the ordinary people of this world are not aware that how sweet and how relishable and how ecstatically, transcendentally sweet bhakti is and can potentially be. So they are surprised. Yudhishthira mentions that I had agreed to be the king as long because I looked at it as an opportunity to serve Krishna, managing this kingdom in order to serve him. That was one way of serving him, doing my service, managing the kingdom, running this kingdom, etc. But now that he's gone, I don't want to spend even one extra moment trying to do that. And after all, Prabhupada also mentions that when he was sitting in the room in Vrindavan, when he wrote this song, very classic song, Vrindavana Bhajana, Prabhupada mentions that everything in this material world is very conditional. Prabhupada said, today I am here, I don't have a business, my business failed, I don't have money, I am old man, and I'm all but abandoned. Nobody even cares for me, nobody even wants to know where I am or what I am doing. Everybody has abandoned me. So Prabhupada said that everybody who's so-called friend or whatever are fair weather friends in the material world. They're with you as long as they can get something from you. Prabhupada says this about his own family. He says, where are they? They're all gone, all but gone. I'm just all alone sitting here and all I have is Krishna and my Guru's instruction, and I'm sitting here in Rupa Goswami's Samadhi, and That's where he wrote that song, Vrindavana Bhajana. And I'm understanding the bitter truth of this material world. And I thank Krishna for making me realize that these are all temporary fair weather friends, whether they're relatives or whoever. They, they just don't have any genuine feeling for you. The kind of feeling that Vaishnavas have for one another, Guru has for a disciple has for a Guru. These are genuine, deep, eternal feelings, eternal bond, eternal loving relationships. So, and Prabhupada later on writes, when he thinks of this Vrindavana Bhajana mood, later on, many years later, Prabhupada said, they all left me, they went away, they abandoned me. And I, by the way, of course, Prabhupada says, I also kind of gave them up, I became a sannyasi. But the fact is, they didn't want me also. But today I gave that away and I have thousands of children. I have thousands. Krishna has sent me thousands of children. So no matter how big the family gets, the family of devotees, the more the merrier, the more the better. Prabhupada said, I gave up 3-4 people, but now I have thousands all over the world. And together we are serving Krishna. And together we are one family. Prabhupada also made it clear that when we work together, when we serve together, when we are staying together, when we are having one common missionary goals, we become a family. That's real family. Not some accidental birth in a family because of karma of various living entities. For some period of time we are together. And then we get separated and gone. But this is not like that. We are coming together out of our own volition, our own desire, our own plan, our own. We're coming together, staying together. We share so many things in common. Our goal, our guru, our philosophy, the mantra we chant, prashadam we eat, the mission that we have, all of it we share and we worship the same Lord. So that's real family. And the more you have in that type of a family, the more sweeter it gets. Whereas the other families is just an accident of destiny. We are there for some time and Prabhupada actually mentions so many times that when we become old, people are thinking, why doesn't this old man die? Why is he living? If he dies, we'll at least divide his property, something like that. But here, Bharata Maharaja is distributing his property to all his children and walking off on his own. So, even within this material world, if there's something called family spirit or loving spirit, it's only among generally speaking, it's only among the devotees and the devotee families and devotee communities, because we share so much in common and we love to be in each other's presence and serve together and associate together. Of course, sometimes there are differences and sometimes there are arguments, and that actually makes the whole relationship more complete in one sense. So we live together, we serve together, we work together, we share the same mission. That is what builds the bonding. Sometimes we share the same, of course we share the same philosophy. Everything is same. So this is more like a family unit. Of course, within that there are families, of course, but nevertheless we are all one big, which is why in the Vedic scriptures, the word used is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Kutumbakam means some kind of a family. This is give and take, where there's love exchange, where there's celebrations, where there's sharing of happiness, where there is supporting one another when things are not going okay. But we all want to serve together under some common leadership, etc. So, in this material world where everybody is contaminated by greed, lust, anger, jealousy, the only hope is really the Vaishnava community. And nobody understood the need to build a Vaishnava community, a Varnashrama system, a Varnashrama society, Daivi Varnashrama society, like Prabhupada did, the other spiritual movements. don't have any answer. They don't have a clue. They don't have that as a mission at all. But Prabhupada was so large-hearted and compassionate that he said that he commanded his managers and governing body that we should have Varnashrama society, Devi Varnashrama communities where everybody is lovingly accommodated. It's not that everybody becomes a Paramahamsa. There will be some Kshatriyas, there will be some mercantile people, and there will be some working class people, and you can't apply the same standards to the mercantile and working class people as you apply to the Paramahamsas. But they should all be accommodated together. They should be guided to offer seva to Krishna. And that is proper society. That is proper community. So Prabhupada wanted that kind of a society to happen. And Prabhupada actually used to say, that's my unfinished agenda. I've done temples, I've done books, I've done festivals, I've done preaching, I've established temples. I've established Mayapur and I've established, but then Varnashrama communities are not yet manifested in this world. So Prabhupada used to call it an unfinished agenda, incompleted agenda. And he really so much wanted that as children of one Father, we should all be able to live together, support one another, understand one another's concerns, and accommodate them. Varnashrama is all about understanding that there will be Paramahamsas, there will be the Brahminical, there will be the Kshatriya, there will be the mercantile class, and there will be the working class, whose spiritual evolution also will be different. But they should all be accommodated, lovingly accommodated, without anybody feeling, any section of the society feeling exploited or discriminated against. So Prabhupada wanted that kind of a society or community or family set up to emerge in the world. But here we see that Bharata Maharaja is one of there should be Paramahamsas in the society, otherwise we cannot establish. There should be very, very high standard role models. Like Bharata just renounced after so many years, his time up. He renounced, he gave up. And Prabhupada also used to say, see, I've taught you all everything. Now you should all manage the society. You can all become gurus. Prabhupada actually said that sannyasis are automatically gurus, but the etiquette is they don't initiate while their guru is still there. And Prabhupada said, now I formed the GBC, I've trained you all, so you take over. So I'll sit in one place and start translating. There's so much more to write and translate. Prabhupada wanted to translate the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, many other books. He said, let me devote myself to that. You manage this society. And very often he would come out of retirement because he would say, you are creating so much crisis and by your immaturity and improper dealings that you're becoming you're creating so much anxiety for me, so I'll have to come back and manage the society. So sometimes it said that Prabhupada's retirement would last 1 day or 1.5 days or 2 days. He would come back and take charge when he hears of some crisis in some part of the world. But Prabhupada wanted to do that, nominate governing body and very gracefully switch over to another type of a role where he's just instructing spiritually, writing books and instructing and like that. So this but the important thing you can also see, Bharata Maharaja didn't spontaneously, suddenly out of renounce. It was already like that. You could see that in the previous verses which we read. Even when he was a king, he was a devotee king. He was a Paramahamsa kind of a king. He was understanding that everything is Krishna's and we should serve him. And so that kind of culture is so important that in families also, when we have children, so we should incorporate and visibly practice this culture so the children also imbibe the cultural values. And they see that at the right time, the father is retiring from business, hands over to the children, and leads a very devotional life. So we have to demonstrate these kind of values so that the next generation are inspired by the values that we have practiced, not just by the books. They also have to see us demonstrate these values in our personal life. So there's so much importance for training. Prabhupada said that in our society today, we don't have a good head. Body is there, strong, etc., but head is. So Prabhupada said the Brahminical cultured people, the Paramahamsa type of people, are like the head of the society. So he wanted that to be established. And that can never be established without the spirit of renunciation. And spirit of renunciation will manifest only when the devotee has experienced some little taste for devotional life, some little taste for chanting, being with devotees, taking prasad, serving together, singing, chanting, watching the deities, doing something for Krishna. And by the way, doing all of this is actually sweet, is very, very sweet, is very engrossing, is very satisfying to every anga of the body. Every cell of the body becomes satisfied when we are engaged in Krishna's service. So Prabhupada very much wanted this type of a example. Kshatriya kings retiring and opting for a life of dedicated spirituality, like Bharata did, like Rishabhadeva did, like the Pandavas did, like so many others have done, retiring and giving up. So Prabhupada wanted that. At the same time, Prabhupada wanted that there should be a strong Brahminical class of men, very strong, very devoted, who can not only teach but who can personally inspire high standards from Kshatriyas, very high standards from Kshatriyas, because of their own selflessness and serving the Lord and society without any motivation. So the beginning is when there is the creation of the Brahminical class. Actually, Prabhupada says that the fall down or the entry of Kali Yuga is when Brahmanas became careless or started wanting to enjoy the privileges of the Brahminical class without practicing the values of Brahmanas. He mentions this in the light of Samika Rishi and Shringi example. So they gave up Brahminical principles but they wanted to enjoy the power, authority, and worship of being Brahmanas. So Prabhupada said that gave the scope for entry of Kali Yuga. So Srila Prabhupada said that the four regulative principles and bhakti and many other things he said. And the fundamental practice, of course, is living together, practicing some sadhana aspects together, and hearing the Bhagavatam and working under the shelter of a acharya. Because otherwise, if we do not accept one common authority, there will be always multitude of opinions and there will be nobody who can reconcile and decide what we have to do at the present time. So Prabhupada wanted a whole setup, a governing body and so on, Kshatriyas. At one time Prabhupada encouraged devotees also, said, if you want, fight elections, but do so on a spiritual plank, on a spiritual platform, so that you can rectify. Though Prabhupada didn't have much hope that in Kali Yuga such themes or such platforms will succeed immediately. So we have a responsibility and a challenge also, that at least we study these literatures and we become aware of the examples of people like Bharata, the Pandavas, the Rishabhadeva, so many other people who walked out from their king. Actually, Dasharatha also wanted to retire. He said, the moment he saw one white hair on his head, he said, this is a warning call. I have to retire and hand over to my son. So he looked at it that way, and he was very anxious to retire, very, very anxious to retire and declare Rama as the king. So his first step was to declare him as a crown prince. So we see those kind of examples are there. Dasharatha also was like that. Vishwamitra also, when he said that though I have the power within me to destroy Tataka, Maricha and Subahu, I don't want to do it because I'm a Brahmana. I should not be doing it. It's the Kshatriyas who have to do that. So let them come and do it. And I'll be there to protect them, to guide them, to help them, teach them, empower them. And let them do it. Because it's their job to protect society, protect ordinary people in the society. So there was some kind of a boundaries within the Varnashrama also. So everybody was, it's nice in a society when everybody excels within their boundaries. Brahmanas become excellent, Paramahamsas. Kshatriyas become very renounced and selfless and bold, courageous, strong. Mercantile men will contribute towards building temples and dharmic activities, and working class people are always protected, and they're never exploited. They're lovingly protected because they have less intellectual maturity or capacities. So Prabhupada wanted, Varnashrama is a society that's built on loving care, trust, love and care between different sections of the society, and where the highest class of men, the Brahmanas, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, live Paramahamsa type of lives. Because that is what truly inspires. All the other sections, they learn and they accept Brahmanas as the natural leaders. Brahmanas are the Acharyas, the Guru Varga, and Paramahamsas as the natural leaders. So Prabhupada very much wanted that kind of a society to emerge. And which is why he was so anxious to present the Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's rich with examples of such personalities. And then, of course, there are also examples like Dhritarashtra, who would never want to retire. And it took someone like Vidura to chastise him and counsel him and forcibly make him retire. Because you're becoming an embarrassment, he told Dhritarashtra. You become a kalank, you're becoming an embarrassment. You'll become a bad example for the people of the future. That this just continuing to live like this meaningless life of just enjoying your privileges of being a grand old man, which is very wrong. And you're living in the house of your enemy as at their beck and call and at their charity. Living as a beneficiary of their charity. So it took someone like Vidura to establish some kind of spirit of shame. I wouldn't call that renunciation. Some kind of a shame, embarrassment in the heart of Dhritarashtra, and finally retired. He also went away. So we have a choice. We have to, at least first we have to educate ourselves. We should read Shravanam Kirtanam, read the literature, which lays the foundation for a new society, for a new era of, we all should want something like that to manifest. 10,000 years of Lord Chaitanya's era, yuga or age, there will be a golden age. So we should have that kind of a faith. And so first is we should read, understand these role models, these examples. And then we should have proper sadhana, practice, so that we start developing some taste for activities of bhakti. And then we all have to understand the biggest challenge, of course, is to work unitedly under a common leadership. That is the biggest challenge in Kali Yuga, because it's an age of hypocrisy and quarrel over small and trivial things. So that is where the real challenge is. How to come together, stay together, serve together, and share loving respect towards one another, knowing that there can be some differences of opinion or taste or whatever. So that's where the real challenge is. How do we stay together? But Prabhupada very much wanted that. Prabhupada said 50,000 devotees, families should live in Mayapur. It should be a self-contained spiritual city and a prototype of how Varnashrama can exist in different parts of the world. That's what Prabhupada wanted. There will be universities, colleges, hospitals, schools, everything managed along Daivi Varnashrama principles. Prabhupada so much wanted that to be a prototype of a new Daivi Varnashrama society that should emerge from the ruins of the Kali Yuga. Because the way Kali Yuga is progressing, very soon there'll be ruins. Very little to be proud of in Kali Yuga. Things are falling apart really rapidly. There's war, there's disturbance, there's treachery, there is no country likes to trust another country. I mean, all that is happening right now. So, if there's any hope, the hope is only from, because the other spiritual organizations, no matter which denomination they belong to, they don't have a clue how to reconstruct society. How a new society will come up from the ruins of the present one. They don't have any idea. Absolutely no idea, nor do they have a literature which supports or explains how it can be done, except the Vedic literature, which explains the Varnashrama system in great amount of detail. The others are all very incomplete or inadequate. They just don't have a clue. I mean, they talk about, the Sharia law, the caliphate or something like that, but they are, mm, they don't recognize that there are stratas within the society and there will be multiple levels of people, spiritual evolutions of various levels. How do we accommodate them? So they just don't have a clue. So they only can create more chaos and mistrust. Whereas in Varnashrama, the whole society lives as limbs of the same body, different limbs of the same body, and understand the indispensability of each limb. We want all the limbs of the body to be fit and healthy. And one common goal, one common mission, and the principle of love and care, trust and protection. The Kshatriyas protect everybody, the Brahmanas guide the Kshatriyas. So Prabhupada wanted that as a role model. And so for all of that to happen, the spirit of renunciation is very, very critical and important. The Brahminical class of people have to show the truthfulness, the courage to be renounced, the conviction, the courage to lead a renounced life. But I told you that there's so much sweetness in living like that as devotees, when working together, chanting together, celebrating together. There's so much sweetness that renunciation becomes a byproduct. It's not something you work hard to achieve. It becomes a natural byproduct because you enjoy so much what you're doing as a devotee. So it becomes a byproduct. So here in this case, we see that Bharata Maharaja comes to the platform of renunciation, because all along he was also, it's not that suddenly one fine day he got up and renounced. No, even when he was a king for that long duration, he was a different type of a king. He was a very devotee king, very strong devotee king. So, same way, we want that kind of an education to happen in our society. They'll learn about these kind of kings from the Bhagavatam, from the Ramayana, from the Mahabharata. They are real role models. That is the itihasa of this country. That is the building blocks of a new society, by learning all these. And what do we gain by reading modern history of how some country conquered us and ruled us for so many years and exploited us? Of course, we learned some lessons from history, but real lessons also are our Puranas and Itihasas, and how in spite of so much propaganda and the basic tenets of Sanatan Dharma are kind of still surviving in spite of over 1,000 years of exploitation and rule, etc. So everything has to be redone, has to be rewritten, has to be reorganized, has to be, revised, starting from education, starting from values and culture, and everything has to be reorganized. Basically, we have to press the reset button completely in our society. Either we do it or some war or something else will force us to do that. Either we do it on our own or some. Prabhupada has said dangerous things many times, that there could be annihilation, destruction of cities and society as we know and see it now. Because these modern cities and empires and businesses are built on greed and deceit and cheating. How can they sustain? They cannot. Because greed eventually has to give rise to quarrel and fight. Greed and deceit and envy, they will give rise to quarrel. Especially in the absence of any spiritual regimen or training, they will definitely give rise to quarrels. So, Prabhupada said that if there is no widespread preaching and people don't chant, and we are heading towards some kind of a apocalypse, some kind of a destruction, that would cause so much pain. So the other option, actually Prabhupada one time said, because there's so much Sankirtan, some world war was stopped. It's because Krishna said, why subject the devotees to more pain and anxiety? So we have to preach, and for us preaching means making people hear, chant, hear about our real Vedic culture, hear about kings like Bharata, people like hear about Lord Chaitanya, hear about Prabhupada, hear about Iskcon, hear about the Daivi Varnashrama, where the basic society is built on love, trust, and affection and care amongst different levels of people, and truthfulness and honesty. So today you see that sometimes it's pathetic to read that in the courts of India, in the different courts of India, there are more than 5 crore cases pending. That means you can imagine how much the tendency to cheat, being untruthful, exploit, deceit has percolated within the society. Because obviously when two people are fighting, one of them is not so honest, has resorted to some kind of cheating. Imagine there are more than 5 crore cases pending in the different courts of this country. And many people don't go to the courts when they have disputes. So even a great country like India has become so compromised on ethical values, morals and principles. So if India collapses spiritually, then that's quite really the end of civilization as we know. So we have to do whatever we can to expand preaching, bring more people under the shelter of the Srimad, the philosophy of the Bhagavatam, Acharyas, the Guru Parampara, and the process of chanting Hare Krishna. Otherwise, actually India is the only beacon of hope for this world now. Whether it comes to morality or philosophy or bhakti or devotion, anything, India is the only hope left for this world. And Prabhupada definitely wanted the voice of Iskcon to be felt more prominently, heard more prominently, and people taking Iskcon's viewpoints very seriously. Which is why Prabhupada would always be open and wanting to meet dignitaries wherever he went, whichever city he went to. The dignitaries, the people in ruling, the kings or the mayors or like that. He was very anxious to put across the Iskcon point of view. So we continue to do that. We should do that and stay strong, and hope someday that the philosophy of Bhagavatam will prevail in this country first, and then maybe rest of the world. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Any questions? No. Oh, Maharaj, sorry, I didn't see. Please pardon me, I didn't recognize. Question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for wonderful class. Pooji, you told about the Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj is very intelligent devotee, and he distributed his property to the children and then left away for the uh, uh, next spiritual journey, continue his spiritual journey. And then you're giving many examples also from Prabhupada and from Yudhishthira Maharaj who also done the same thing. And you're giving some opposite examples also like Dhritarashtra who have not done the same thing, and due to that they have to be struggle whole life. So my question in this point only, Guruji. So as we know that constitution is changing nowadays based on the situation and circumstances. So they told that whenever you divide the property should be divided equally among male and female members. And then if someone is a devotee who have little intelligence, now
what did you say? The last line.
Someone have a devotee, and devotee, or you can say someone is a mature to know that how to deal with the property and those things. Like here, Bharat Maharaj know that whom we have to give the how much property, and then based on that he give and return back to his spiritual journey. Now someone is a devotee in the family, and he have idea that how things will be run and those things. Now he left away for the brahmachari ashram, or for example, his lady then go away for the marriage with his husband and go into the another family. In that case, his brothers and sisters whom the property is divided with him equally. Now they want to use that property, and property may be cheated by some others to them. In that type of case, this mature devotee or this lady, what have to be do?
You see, there are some formulas for how property has to be divided. Not that this was not thought of in the previous ages. There are some guidelines, some formulas, and in fact, if you go to the court, there's a book called the Hindu Law. The Hindu law decides in what ratio and proportion different people are entitled to get some property. If a person dies, and let's say he doesn't divide the property, what formula we apply to divide it among his successors and heirs, legal heirs. But the Hindu law has got very discredited nowadays because of feminism, and because certain portions of the Hindu law are derived from Manu Samhita. And Manu Samhita uses the word Shudra for the working class people. So modern day thought process is very different. They say you can't use that word. It's a derogatory word. So what's happened is that the whole Hindu law has become discredited. Otherwise, in the olden days, they would read the Hindu law and then all scenarios are explained. How property has to be divided, who gets how much share, does the widow get some share, somebody else, children, grandchildren, cousins. So, but because Hindu law is discredited, and there's this whole thing about secularism, and there's feminism, there's secularism, there is, everybody should have common uniform civil code. Everybody has to have, which is not necessarily based on religion or dharma. So the society is evolving into a very, I would say, some kind of an egalitarian approach. Egalitarian means everybody is same and common in the eyes of law. That has its positives, but that may not be a solution for all scenarios. So everybody is confused now. They don't know how to decide. But the point is this. The real painful point is this. We, as a society, as a country, as a generation, we are abandoning principles of truthfulness and principles of love and care and spirit of sharing. We are abandoning. Everybody is extremely selfish when it comes to money. Everybody wants to cheat. So when honesty, truthfulness, principle of sharing, giving, caring is gone, and there's this whole secularistic viewpoint, so they'll fight. I would guess a good proportion of the 5 crore cases in India are about property disputes within the members of the same family. Within members of the same family, everybody wanting a bigger share. And bigger share means it has to be at the expense of someone else. So imagine what is happening. So there is no truthfulness, there's no compassion, there's no honesty, there is no genuineness, there's no spirit of give and take, there is just selfishness. And there's feminism, which means women are also fighting very aggressively for their share. Rightly or wrongly, in that the original Hindu Dharma scriptures that restricted the right of women on property, because they said, anyway, you're entering a different house, you belong to a different family. So they had restricted, but now women are questioning that. So nobody really knows which way it will head, but it's definitely heading to a more chaos and disturbed society and more cheating and like that. That's what it's heading to. So what can we do? In the olden days, the elders in the family could sit together and decide, saying, listen, give that person a little extra because he's not so intelligent or something. Give this person this, give this person. And then the family would, the spirit of give and take would accept that. But will anybody accept that now? No. Now, what to speak of ordinary people? In our own community, in our own society, there's this huge battle going on about property. Huge battle about property, not about the philosophy part, the property part. So when we are such pathetic role models, what do you expect from society? See, the moment truthfulness is compromised, then it's that society is over. That society is on a downfall, a rapid, what do you call it? Downward curve. So the only hope is chanting the holy name and like that. So don't, and so people sometimes they use non-legal recourse. They resort to non-legal recourse to sort out problems. That is even more bad. And then so many of the wars that are being fought in this world are about land, because some land has oil, some land has minerals, some land is this, some land is that. So it's all about business and money. It's not about dharma, it's not about being truthful, it's not about anything like that, okay? So don't expect anything from modern instruments of justice or systems of justice. You can't expect. And this dispute that I'm talking about ran for 25 years, and then finally such a devastating, shattering verdict, because we were all first-hand experience, first-hand witnesses of how the whole documents and this and that were forged and manipulated and manufactured and created in order to suit the view of a court, in order to win the court battle, none of which was true. Not one shred of document that was produced by the other side was true, which is why we all came out, otherwise we were with him. What do you expect when spiritualists do this? What do you expect? Okay, thank you very much. Good question. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramaya, Shri Gaurnitai ki.